I was standing at the edge of my South 40, just where the alfalfa meets the corn, staring at these deep, undeniable tire tracks cutting a jagged path right through everything. Not the first time, not the second, but the fifth time that week. And yeah, it was the same damn vehicle. A glistening white Cadillac Escalade, leaving mud and flattened crops in its wake like a rich person's signature. This was Alara Vance, treasurer of the prestigious Stonebrook Ridge Homeowners Association, a title that, in her mind, apparently translated to local royalty with unlimited driving privileges. She genuinely believed those oversized designer sunglasses and her husband's position as HOA president gave her the right to turn my private, working acreage into her personal 10-minute shortcut. She'd claimed she had an easement, some kind of historic right-of-way from the 70s, but I knew she didn't. My name's Silas Boone, 52 years old, and I bought this 90-acre place in rural Montana specifically to get away from people like Alara. I was a city engineer for 3 decades. I had the burnout, the saved-up money, and a desperate craving for open space, quiet, and the right to run my farm exactly how I saw fit, which definitely did not include luxury SUVs joyriding through my young corn. By the time this was all over, that $80,000 Escalade would be sitting dead center in my field on 4 shredded tires. Her high-powered city lawyer would be begging me to settle, and Alara's neatly manicured life would unravel in ways she absolutely never saw coming. Let me take you back 6 months, to when this whole thing started. I'd spent 2 solid years building this farm up from scratch, adding 20 head of Angus, planting rotational crops, and fixing up the old cabin. It was perfect, rolling hills, clear water creek, and most importantly, the western boundary sat 300 feet outside the Stonebrook Ridge development line. I wanted zero part of their world of manicured rules and monthly fees, but that world crept onto mine anyway. The first time, I just figured it was a lost delivery driver, right? Mistake. The second time, I saw her, clear as day. Same white Cadillac, barreling across my land, saving her a 4-mile detour around to the main highway. I threw my pickup across the track on the third instance, forcing her to stop. She rolled down the window, that perfectly annoyed expression like I was the obstacle, not the owner. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice level, though my blood pressure was definitely spiking. "This is private land. You can't drive here." She gave me this pitying, condescending laugh. Literally laughed. "There's an easement," she said, waving a perfectly manicured hand. "It's recorded. A legacy route. You're new, honey. You wouldn't understand the local history." Then, before I could respond, she just maneuvered her massive vehicle around my truck, cutting a fresh, deeper rut through the corn, and sped off toward the guarded back gate of Stonebrook. I was livid, but I kept my cool. I immediately called my property lawyer, a good old boy named Walt. 2 days later, Walt called me back. "Silas, your title is clean as a whistle," he said, definitive. "No historical easements, no public right-of-way, absolutely nothing. She's flat-out trespassing, period." Armed with the law, I figured it was an easy fix. I was so naive. I started putting up big, reflective, impossible-to-miss private property no trespassing signs, placing them every 50 feet along her route. Alara didn't slow down. She barely glanced at them. I got Walt to draft a formal, serious cease and desist, detailing the trespassing and property damage, sending it certified mail with return receipt. She signed for it. 3 days later, I watched on my barn security feed as she stopped, looked at the envelope, tore it in half, and threw the pieces into the mud before accelerating away, horn blaring. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about a shortcut. It was about power. The real trouble started a month later. Alara wasn't just driving through. She was actively trying to provoke me. She'd lay on the horn as she passed my grazing paddock, sending my herd scattering. I had 3 young heifers due to calve. Cows are sensitive, and the constant stress was a genuine risk. Then the worst happened. My prize 3-year-old, Bess, one of my original cattle, was startled by Alara's sudden appearance and sustained engine noise. She bolted, stumbled hard, and a few hours later I found her. She'd miscarried. The vet confirmed the stress was the trigger. That calf was worth about $5,000 in breeding potential. I documented everything. The vet's report, the dates, the times, the crop loss. I called the county sheriff, Deputy Rhodes. Rhodes listened, saw the destruction, but just shook his head. Mr. Boone, she keeps waving these supposed documents claiming harassment. Unless I catch her in the act and she refuses to leave, it's a civil matter. You need a court injunction. The legal system was failing me, slow, expensive, and utterly ineffective against her entitlement. So I tried physical deterrence. I bought a heavy-duty steel farm gate and installed it, complete with a thick logging chain and a high-security padlock. I put it up on a Friday afternoon. Saturday morning, I was sipping coffee when I heard the unmistakable screech of brakes, then shouting, and finally, the heavy snip-snip sound of bolt cutters. I ran out just in time to see her swing the gate open, drive through, and actually give me the finger as she passed. I had a hidden trail camera filming the entire felony. I realized I couldn't win a battle of gates, or lawyers, or petty complaints. Elara had the money, the HOA backing, and the arrogance to believe she was untouchable. That's when I remembered a conversation I'd had with a retired state trooper about protecting property from repeat offenders. I started researching vehicle deterrent devices, specifically professional-grade spike strips. I called Walt back. "Walt," I asked, "if a repeatedly warned trespasser drives onto my clearly marked private land and hits a device designed to stop vehicles, not hurt people, is it legal?" Walt paused. "Silas, it's a tightrope. But you have a mountain of documentation, months of trespassing, property destruction, and a dead calf. If you go completely overboard with explicit, transparent warning signs, notifying her, notifying law enforcement, then yes, you could argue you are legally protecting your property from ongoing criminal damage. But prepare to get sued." I told him that was good enough for me. I ordered 3 sets of heavy-duty, retractable spike strips, the kind designed to deflate tires quickly and safely without flipping the vehicle. Over the next week, I became a professional warning sign installer. I custom-ordered 43-foot by 2-foot signs, bright yellow and red, screaming in bold letters, "Private property. Trespassers will be prosecuted. Vehicle deterrent devices in use. Tire damage will occur." I installed them every 40 feet along her exact route, covering every possible angle. The place looked like a federal security zone. Finally, I drafted one last certified letter. Walt helped me craft a masterpiece including the vet report, the gate destruction footage stills, and actual photographs of the new signs, explicitly stating that spike strips were deployed. I made sure she signed for it. I forwarded everything to Deputy Rhodes, too. I wanted zero ambiguity. Monday morning, 7:05 a.m., her usual commute time. I sat in my barn with my laptop displaying the feeds from 4 separate trail cameras. My heart was pounding like a drum solo. Part of me, the hopeful part, thought maybe she'd finally read the letter. Maybe she'd take the 4-mile detour. 8:18 a.m. The white Escalade appeared, right on schedule. I watched on the screens as she sped past the first sign. Then the second, then the third. No brakes, no hesitation. She was driving at 35 miles an hour, treating my final, explicit warnings like a joke. She was absolutely convinced she was above the law. And then she hit the first spike strip. The sound wasn't the violent explosion you see in movies. It was a rapid, sickening puffed, puffed, as the front tires instantly lost air. The Escalade lurched, nose dipping hard, but she didn't stop. She must have thought she hit a deep pothole. 5 seconds later, the rear tires hit the same strip. Puffed, puffed. Now, riding on 4 rapidly deflating tires, she finally slammed the brakes, but momentum carried her forward. 15 yards later, she hit the second set. This time, the noise was a vicious, grinding squeak, as her spinning, damaged rims tore across the spikes. Any remaining air was gone. She was rolling on metal, throwing sparks and shredding the remains of her expensive tires. The vehicle barely responded to the steering or brakes. She rolled another 20 yards before hitting my third redundant set, my insurance policy. This final strip literally ate what was left of the rubber. The Escalade finally jolted to a complete, final stop, sitting dead center in my field, approximately 50 yards past the last warning sign, on 4 completely destroyed tires and visibly bent aluminum rims. I saved all the camera footage to 3 different drives. The evidence was secured. A long moment of silence passed. Then the driver's side door opened. Ilara climbed out, slow and confused, like a puppet whose strings had been cut. She walked around the front, looked at the rims, walked around the back, and that was the moment, that visceral, beautiful moment, when full realization hit her. She threw her phone down, then screamed. A high, piercing sound I couldn't make out, but the body language was clear. Pure, unadulterated fury. I picked up my phone, dialed the sheriff's non-emergency line, and stated calmly, "This is Silas Boone on County Route 12. I have an active, persistent trespasser on my property. They have severely damaged their vehicle after ignoring multiple, highly visible warning signs about vehicle deterrent devices. I need Deputy Rhodes to respond for a criminal trespassing incident." I grabbed my organized binder, the deed, the vet report, the cease and desists, the signed receipts, the photos, and walked out to meet her. "What did you do to my car, you psycho?" She shrieked as I approached, her face bright crimson. "You tried to kill me! You set a trap!" I stopped 10 feet away, keeping my hands visible and my voice flat. "You ignored 30 warning signs and a certified letter, Ilara. This is the documented consequence of 6 months of criminal trespassing." "Consequence? I'm going to sue you for everything you own. My husband will have your badge and your farm." She raged. I pulled out my phone and started recording her. "Ilara, you were warned in writing and with signs every 40 feet. You destroyed my gate with bolt cutters last month. Your illegal actions caused my pregnant cow to miscarry. I have everything documented and the sheriff is on his way. Now, kindly step away from my property damage. This is HOA land. My lawyer has the documents," she yelled, pointing at the nearest sign. "They're fake. You're the one trespassing." The minute Deputy Rhodes' cruiser pulled into the field, Ilara's demeanor flipped. Her rage vanished, replaced by instant dramatic victimhood. "Officer, thank God. This man tried to murder me. He set traps on public property. Look what he did to my car. Arrest him!" She cried, rushing toward the deputy. Rhodes looked at the car, then at me. I walked over, handed him my binder, and let the paperwork speak. "Deputy, we spoke last week. This folder contains the clear title, the signed warning receipts, the property damage evidence, the vet report for the calf, and photos of the 40 warning signs deployed with my full disclosure to your office." She chose to ignore every single warning while trespassing. He flipped through the binder, his face hardening as he saw the evidence. He asked Ilara for her documentation. "My lawyer has it," she stammered. "Not with me, but—" "Ma'am," Rhodes interrupted, firmly but gently, "that's not how property rights work. Mr. Boone has clear title here. I'm citing you for criminal trespassing. Given the history and the documented property destruction of the gate, the DA will likely file additional charges." Her face drained of all color. "You can't arrest me. This is civil." Rhodes ignored her, finishing the citation. He then called for a tow truck. The tow driver, a guy named Hank, took one look and whistled. "Lady, you need 4 new tires and 4 new aluminum rims. You're looking at $4,000 minimum." Ilara finally broke down, the entitlement completely gone, replaced by desperation and fear. She couldn't reach her husband, and her lawyer, the one who told her to stop trespassing, hung up on her. She was left stranded, citation in hand, forced to pay Hank an exorbitant fee for extracting her $80,000 piece of wreckage from my cornfield. That was the end of the physical conflict, but not the end of the story. 2 weeks later, my neighbor called. Turns out, Ilara's spike strip incident became local legend, drawing enough attention that someone on the HOA board started asking questions about her using HOA legal funds to fight her private trespass war with me. The ensuing forensic audit revealed that Ilara, the untouchable HOA treasurer, had been embezzling over $70,000 from the Stonebrook community for years. She'd been clever, coding shopping sprees as HOA vendor expenses, but the audit found everything. The easement documents she'd been waving around? Completely fake. Made up. Suddenly, a trespassing citation was the least of her problems. She was formally charged with fraud and grand theft. Her husband, who may or may not have known, immediately filed for divorce to protect his assets. Alara's house was listed for sale 2 weeks later. They were fleeing the neighborhood in disgrace. In the end, I won the court case. She pleaded guilty to criminal trespassing and was ordered to pay me $10,000 in restitution, covering the gate, the crops, and the vet bill. More importantly, the judge issued a permanent restraining order. She could never come within 500 feet of my property again. I used the restitution money to install an 8-foot, reinforced steel perimeter fence, not just against Alara, but as a permanent boundary against all future entitlement. I realized something profound that day. Accountability always arrives. It might be slow, it might be expensive, and it might require you to be more methodical than your opponent ever dreamed of being. But when you stand on the right side of the law, when you document every single act of wrongdoing, when you are transparent about your defense, you don't need to resort to violence or anger. You just let their own actions catch up to them. The spike strips are stored neatly in my barn now. I've never had to deploy them again. But sometimes the best justice isn't about revenge. It's about having the patience, the clear conscience, and the documentation to let karma do its finest, most thorough work. What about you? Have you ever dealt with someone who truly believed they were above the rules? How did you finally hold them accountable? Was it documentation? Was it transparency? Or was it something a little more creative? Let me know your story in the comments below. I'd love to read it.